And ahoy all, we are back on YouTube. It's me, Jason, and Rose, and we're here to talk a minute because the second part of the episodes we are running now are about the intelligence agencies, and guess what? We cannot run them on any social media platform, and we will demonstrate why. Welcome, Jason.
Well, I guess we're just writing episodes that are a little too naughty, huh?
Well, it goes to show you, this is why we pay for a private server. If we did not, these things cannot be addressed at any level on nearly any social platform that's open to the public.
So, what is this episode about that apparently just is just such a terrible thing to have the open general public have access to? So in this episode, we explore how the architecture of intelligence agencies has evolved alongside the growth of mass media. We look at documented examples across different countries and decades of how governments have used information, imagery, and storytelling to influence how the public interprets world events. We talk about the long-standing relationship between state agencies and the entertainment industry, examining how film, television, and news have been used not just to report events, but to shape how those events are remembered. That's a big thing. The conversation covers narrative framing, selective release of information, and the psychological impact of repeated imagery on public perception. We also examine the broader concept of narrative management, how official channels decide which stories get told, which are minimized, and which are framed in ways that support certain objectives. We compare historical examples from the early 20th century through the modern day, noting the recurring patterns and techniques that cross political and cultural boundaries. Finally, we discuss how these patterns have influenced public trust, skepticism, and civic engagement, and consider what it means for individuals who want to think critically in an environment where information is both abundant and highly curated. Now, this is actually part 2 of this 3-part series that we ended up doing. Part 1 seemed to get away with a bit more, but also we covered a lot of very early history that I guess wasn't quite so naughty. Would you agree with that?
There it is, bully, Jasonius Maximus. It comes down to this. We are trying to take our first hour, which we always ran on YouTube years ago before they deleted this channel one night, and we put them through the tools at hand, and we are regularly being told you can't run this, and this is why we're running the private server. If you even address history at almost any level or naysay any given public topic, you're going to be shot down at this point. And I mean, what would you add, Jason? It's to the point where even a level conversation where sometimes you're quoting Wikipedia won't fly anymore.
Right. Well, even Wikipedia gets it right sometimes twice a day like a broken clock. Look, there's a lot of things you can talk about, and some things have actually surprisingly eased up. But there is still so much. I don't want to start naming subjects because you guys will figure it out. There are certain things you may not speak about without getting spanked down. Let's put it that way.
Like the Mossad agent that showed up on 60 Minutes. He could go on 60 Minutes and say the most heinous things you've ever heard, but if we reiterate them, that's no good. It's coming down to a level of ridiculousness. But let's lay down, Jason, why the actual stated reason why we can't run on YouTube and other platforms.
All right, so according to YouTube's own misinformation policy, quote, certain types of misleading or deceptive content with serious risk of egregious harm are not allowed. That includes content questioning mainstream accounts of major tragedies, like suggesting they were staged or fabricated, and implies deceptive conspiracies by governments or media. Oh no, wouldn't want to do that. That's precisely the kind of material that YouTube flags as harmful, which is why we can't broadcast that part of the show in full here. And I'm sure it's going to be the same for part 3 as well.
Yeah, and the next 4 bullet points derive exactly from the content that we had to try to determine whether it was safe to run on a platform. So hit them with the bullets.
Right. So, by the way, in case anyone hasn't figured out why we're here, we cannot run part 2 openly. So we're here to say, hey, if you liked that series, the only place we're going to be able to play it is on our private website, because even checking with the AI search engine thingies, it's saying, that's naughty. You can't do that.
So let me just iterate so everybody knows, whether you're new here or you've been around. Hour 1 runs for free at crow777radio.com. You don't even have to log in. You just go to the website. And that is how we maintain being able to speak like adults without getting flagged, struck, shut down, or deleted, or any of that. Now, hour 2 is where we hit it hard, and that's to membership. Membership also gets access to all the comments, to the forum. They can create top level topics. They get exclusive access to my current solar work. And by the way, the last 2 months have been the most impressive work I've done to date. And I'm determined to get clear shots of the second sun this season. Also on the website is Shoot the Moon, the film I made about the moon and my past telescope work. That has 10 awards in the world. That's free to all the membership to stream. And lastly, the stills that I've derived from my solar work are available on the website. But with that, here are the direct violations that would parallel the episode we can't run here.
Point number 1. Claims about historical events that contradict mainstream accounts of mass tragedies or wars. Excuse me. Including suggesting that certain events were staged or fabricated. Well, we wouldn't want to do that, would we?
No, never. We're not going to do that, except on my website.
Number 2. Assertions of coordinated deception by governments and media around those historical events, implying falsified evidence or cover-ups. I almost laughed my ass off reading this because, holy cow, man.
So let me get this straight. You've got a system that can lie, and in public, nobody can question that lie.
So YouTube is saying that if the mainstream media says something, it absolutely is the truth, and you are not allowed to challenge it, period. And if you do, you're out of here, pal.
Wrapped up in a nice little bow. Who needs the barn wall from Animal Farm with a system like that in place?
Okay, so now that we're done with that little bit of joy, point number 3. References to specific named historical incidents in a way that denies or disputes the officially accepted narrative.
I mean, come on. Come on.
Now, there's one I could mention that I don't think will get us in trouble, and that's the whole USS Liberty getting us into Vietnam thing. That is now admitted, and it's in mainstream history, YouTube, so settle your britches, that, hey, that was actually a lie we told you back in the mid-60s.
Yeah, but we've taken that further. Not only was it a lie, it was outed in the Pentagon Papers. It was blasted out to the whole country that it was a lie. But what wasn't blasted out was the admiral in charge of that was Jim Morrison's, of the Doors fame, father. So while the father was out false flagging his way into a war, which the mainstream outed because of the Pentagon Papers, the son was tearing apart the fabric of America and normalizing drugs and destroying the family unit, which worked very well, by the way.
So let's break on through to point number 4.
There it is.
Discussion of intelligence agency operations tied to those events in a way that accuses them of deliberate fabrication. Because, of course, ladies and gentlemen, an intelligence agency would never, ever, ever, ever deliberately fabricate anything that is false in any way, shape, or form. That never happens. Also, implying criminal or malicious intent by identifiable modern institutions in connection with those events. So those are 4 points where it's very, very naughty to go against.
Well, when I was in high school, they still had debates. But basically, if you look at what's been laid down here, you can't debate anything that's been put down by a, quote, official narrative. Basically, that's what they're saying. You can't second guess it. You can't question it.
So once again, let me say to everybody out there, has an intelligence agency ever fabricated anything? Ever? Well, according to YouTube, no, never.
It's beyond. But what we're going to be doing is when we can run an hour one, it's going to be live streamed here again. When we can't, we simply can't. But I cannot stress enough, hour one is free to everybody at crow777radio.com. You don't have to log in. You don't have to do anything. You push play. And we set it up that way for a reason. I set it up that way, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, because I knew this was coming. I have been paying for a private server for the better part of a decade because I knew the direction this was going. And what we do there is we maintain the right to exercise free speech, but we have to pay for it. As a matter of fact, we have to pay exorbitant fees to deliver email that has to do with that website. And I'm not even kidding. For a long time, we thought our email was getting delivered, but in fact, it wasn't. And so we pay for that as well. But in doing that, we don't have to say ridiculous things and self-censor like the internet is training so many to do to themselves by saying pew pew or unalived. If I have something to say, I will use the word gun or firearm or machine gun or whatever I think is appropriate. And I will say dead, deceased, no longer among us. And I will not self-censor. And that is the benefit of paying for a private server. So
I like boomsticks.
Bed knobs and broomsticks.
Bed knobs and boomsticks.
There you go. So Rose, do we have anything else to lay down?
Nope, that was the purpose of the stream, to let everyone know that we wish we could stream it, but we can't. And I find it very frustrating. And also, I mean, we couldn't even if we tried to censor ourselves in the first free hour because we are covering the 1940s. So it's just impossible to cover the 1940s without getting in trouble.
We won't tell you here what happened in the 1940s, but I bet you could figure it out for yourself.
America was proud afterwards. America was so proud after the 1940s, and there's a lot of people whose feelings would be hurt if they found out that they were a part of something that they didn't realize at the time. I think that that's why people get so upset, is because there's a certain group of people whose feelings will get hurt too much. And so
let me reframe that. This is a slow, steady runaround to violate the rights of free speech. At the Supreme Court, the line was simply drawn at it doesn't matter if you hurt someone's feelings. The lines are drawn at injury. You cannot use speech that will result in injury or could result in injury. Like you can't shout fire in a crowded theater is usually the example. So what's going on here is a slow creep to censoring a critically important human right called the right to express yourself using free thought and free speech. And by the way, as this digital age creeps forward, they're going to be coming after the free thought. And it's a hell of a thing. And if we do not stand up and pay for our own servers and make every effort to maintain ourselves as adult human beings, a lot of rights will be lost along the way. And it is a God-given right, free speech. And the reason I know that, because it is a God-given right to have the divine spark of life and free will. And free speech goes hand in hand with free will. So those who are infringing on said rights are infringing on a God-given right.
I agree. And that's why it's the corporation that is the problem, because now it's not about the Constitution. It's about the opinions of this corporation that we're under the aegis of to try and reach a larger audience.
Corporations have been used to do runarounds for so many things. And one of the stories that we covered, supposedly one of the storylines of how corporations came to be, is people kept bellying up saying, give us the right to have corporations. And they kept saying, no, how does it benefit living men and women? Finally, one of the arguments is they said, we want to use corporations to protect the non-mainstream people. They made it racial. We'll protect black people. We'll protect Mexican people. And finally, they got the okay under that storyline. The first year they were approved for corporations, there were more corporations as we'd recognize them today than there were any people being protected. And that's just one of the things we covered. And the problem with corporations, as we all know now, because they've gotten so far out of control, is they've figured out how to become monopolies without looking like they're a monopoly. And they are basically a dead entity given the rights of a person. But the main thing about corporations is they're put together so the people who run them cannot be held responsible for anything unless you can pierce the corporate veil. In other words, if they break some rule of corporation, that might be possible. But for the most part, it's a way to shield people from being held responsible.
Oh, let me address something I just noticed here in the comments. Bill Cooper is one of my favorite people. And even though I don't 100% agree with the way he did what he did throughout his career, he absolutely lived and died by the sword he chose. And I respect the hell out of that. And the vast majority of what he spoke about, most especially in his Mystery Babylon series, I am right behind.
You're going to find very few people who could even produce content at that clip, never mind the content at the level it was coming. I remember Fortune saying things about this, but yeah, he picked the hill he was going to die on, and then he died on it.
And let's just say that even if you don't want to subscribe, you can still come and always hear the first hour for free. Now, if you do subscribe, there's something maybe you don't realize. We have probably close to 700 episodes on the website. Even if you subscribe for 1 month, you could download any of those, meaning you could get more content than you could probably listen to for a long time. Just throwing that out there because we don't hold the content back. As far as that's concerned.
All the content is available. If you're a member, you can go all the way back to episode 1. We're currently releasing 640. There's well over 1,000 hours of content available to you. There's actually more than that because we did run a bunch of 0.5 episodes, which are only an hour long, but they don't change the number sequence. Also, there is the members section for my solar work. I'm producing the 18th solar video now. And that's exclusive. Only the members of the website get to see the work I'm doing now. The reason for that is I used to film through my telescope and upload it to YouTube. And a year or two after I started doing that, YouTube sent me a note saying we have rights to everything you've ever uploaded on our platform. We can do whatever we want with it, to include commercials. In other words, you could see my first lunar wave in a commercial if they felt like doing it. I'm not doing that ever again. Giving someone the power to delete, claim ownership, or censor my work. So currently I'm working on the 18th solar members only video, and that will go up as well. There is also an episode that is a video episode where I covered the movie with John Travolta called Michael, and I did that on purpose to make a very critical point. You were told that John Travolta is playing the archangel Michael. But here's the spoiler alert. He's not an angel. He's an angle of the sun. He's playing the sun in the 12 stations of the zodiac. And in the video, I outline it very clearly. And the point I'm making is, how could someone writing a movie know all this? And how is it that everybody watching this can't see it? But that's available as well. So there's quite a bit available. I mean, you could go well over a year with the... someone just told me, Jason, do you remember? Someone told me they started on episode 1 and did the whole thing, but I forget how long it took them.
No, but that would take a long time. I mean, you're talking 1,000 plus hours, 1,500 maybe?
It's surprising how many people have done just that. They come to the website, they go back to the older. Here's the thing about the older episodes. There's only so many times I can ring a bell on any given topic. Some of those early things take apart things like Sandy Hook, Mandalay Bay. Mandalay Bay is what got my YouTube channel.
Now, don't go hurting people's feelings.
Yeah, I won't. The moon landing, all these things, that nukes do not exist as described, dinosaurs don't exist as described. That is all in the early material. And that's why people end up going back to one and running through all of them. We've had people say, parents, you should quit sending your kids to college and getting that massive bill at the end. Just go listen to all the old episodes of Crow 777 and catch a couple of the new ones any given week, and you will have had a better education than the $100,000 you'll be in debt will get you.
All right. I don't know if we have anything else to say. I know I was a little bit on the sarcastic side because I think it's just preposterously ridiculous that I'm talking about stuff that happened 80 plus years ago, and YouTube says, no, no, no. But anyway, we just want to let everybody know, since we have been trying to play as much content for free here, and man, the freaking world we live in.
All right. We there, Rose?
Yeah, since you guys talked about the John Travolta movie, I just wanted to say that I really love it when you guys cover movies, but it's so hard because it has to be relevant. But there's 2 other movie episodes. They weren't videos, but you covered the movie Frequencies, and that was episode 539. And then you covered the movie called Revolver, which was episode 602. And so maybe one day we'll find another good movie for you guys to cover in an episode.
It's a heck of a thing when you check out those 3 episodes, because it opens your eyes to how much is in a movie that the average person may not be aware of. But with that, you ready, guys?
Yeah.
Thank you guys for all dropping in. I hope to see you at the website. I really do. And I'd like to wish you all a happy, healthy, and higher-minded new era. There it is, man. Cheers.
Belief is the enemy of knowing.